And I say to her, Mom, I don't want you to take me to school anymore. And she says to me, well, why? And I said, well, because I'm embarrassed because you're black and I'm white. So I was in third grade. Okay. My mom used to walk me to school every day. Again, my mother is a black woman and I'm light skinned. When we get to the school and my mom kissed me goodbye, the kids started teasing me. And it was happening often. And the kids were saying, that is not your mommy. You're white and she's explicit and she's black. And now I'm from England, okay? And so coming to this country, and I was still, young enough that I remember more of England than America at the time. And I didn't understand what that meant because
Yeah, already when she was saying that, I'm assuming you're in a predominantly white environment because we're calling you the N-word. We already know what time it is. So you now have a mixed race woman who is going to school and she's having a ninja moment in third grade.
never paid attention to the fact that my mother was darker skinned than I was. She was just my mom. I didn't notice. So I felt uncomfortable and I felt embarrassed. I didn't know why they were saying that. And so here I am, third grade. I go home to my mom and I say to her, Mom, I don't want you to take me to school anymore. And she says to me, well, why? And I said, well, because I'm embarrassed because you're black and I'm white.
What would you guys do in that scenario? What would be your response, your reaction? Now, to be fair, this is a young girl, third grade, not really understanding the dynamics at all. I'm assuming she's in a predominantly white community where she's standing out with her mom. Here is the challenge that can happen when you have black people who grow up in predominantly white environments, or even when you have mixed race people who grow up in predominantly white environments who can still be perceived as black. It's so easy, especially in like the modern day, to have this I don't see color, to put the blinders on. And then when people get in interracial relationships, this can also happen sometimes when you have black men or black women, depending upon the comfort they have with their blackness and whether or not they love being black or whether or not they're ashamed of that. They can sometimes try to minimize that or kind of hide it or ultimately not prepare their child for what's going on, not have those conversations, not let them know, yes, we're your mom and your dad, and yes, we love you, but we still live in a society that views the things this way. Like those kinds of conversations can be really helpful to children. Like I said, whether they are black or whether they are mixed race, but when those conversations are not had, then they're kind of left to figure these things out by themselves. And so I wonder if that's what happened in that scenario. We don't exactly know, but it kind of sounds like that because the fact that she said she was kind of unaware and didn't recognize the color of her skin's mom means that her parents didn't have that conversation with her and say, hey, yeah, I'm your mom, your dad, and we love each other. But society sees things this way. This is just what this is going to mean when you're in school. Because those conversations are really important because kids experience it at any age.
My mother wept and she cried and she told me I was ashamed of her. And how could you say something like that? And my mom was in so much pain. And I remember the feeling, third grade, of feeling misunderstood and feeling insecure about expressing myself. And I didn't know what to say because my intention wasn't to hurt my mom's feelings. I just didn't know why they were teased. I didn't understand.
And I wonder if that mother was crying not necessarily because of her daughter, but more because of herself, if that's something that her mother had already believed about herself. Because again, the fact that she didn't already have that conversation with her daughter and was very candid with the fact that, like, and this is what this means to travel throughout life. This is what this means to come from a mixed race background or to come from a background where you're still going to be perceived as black, even if you have like, the fact that she didn't have that conversation to me is really interesting and is I think is generally a conversation you would have when you are very well grounded in your cultural upbringing. You have a strong sense of healthy self-esteem, you have a strong sense of cultural pride, and you can take those things head on for what they are. So, but if the mom felt insecurity about her own blackness already, if she already felt that, and then the daughter comes and says that could have potentially been why also it hurt in the way that it did. And I'm sure even apart from that, I'm sure that's still a very painful thing to go through. But again, these are all questions that I have when you have this young girl who's still trying to navigate a rather complicated thing such as race and what that means for her identity, and sounding like she's not didn't have those conversations up front, so she's kind of having to figure it out by herself.
That was the only way I could comprehend it. So growing up, even though that was buried deep in my mind, it always made me feel insecure. So if I were around people who didn't understand me or misunderstood what I was saying or what have you, and I felt like I was going to hurt their feelings or whatever when I was trying to articulate myself, it literally made me really emotional inside. And I didn't even know that it stemmed from that story until I started doing some work and trying to understand, why do I get so angry when people misunderstand me? And it was my coach. I had to do my own coaching and so on and so forth. And I know it's a long winded story, but it's to the point of what I guess I'm trying to make here is that sometimes the insecurities that we have are so deep rooted. They stem from one simple story that just continued to grow because you didn't get your healing or your clarity in that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I say we can talk about insecurities, but how do people overcome them?
So that was a really interesting story. A lot she brought up there, not only, individual insecurities, how they can start going back to childhood and fester when you're not able to really have complete closure or get clarity on it. And then also the complicated dynamic that mixed race people can have in environments, and even sometimes Black people can have when they grow up in predominantly white environments, and how confusing that can be when there is not strong parental interference walking them alongside them, just really teaching them the dynamics of race and stealing in them their own culture or helping to define what that is. So a lot of interesting dynamics there. I'm curious what you guys think about this whole story, whether it be around insecurities or whether it just be around confusion about race, racial identity. If you're a mixed race, what that was like for you. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye.
I'm really excited to announce my new kids book, Aisha Learns to Love Her Hair. Aisha's hair is stunning, but she struggles to see its beauty. Through encouragement and wisdom from Grandma Lily, Aisha learns powerful lessons about self-acceptance. Aisha's journey is a heartwarming tale of family, culture, and confidence. Share her magical journey with your little loved one today, available for purchase.